Hey folks, it's me again, Joseph Dixon, and thank you for coming back to my channel. And you're going to be treated to another painting with watercolor pencil demonstration. Today's activity is all about blocking in color and blending color using watercolor pencils. So if you're ready to go, let's paint along. Okay, so let's start off first with the photograph I'll be working from. It's a okra flower, and I'll be using some earth tones. I'm using fine touch watercolor pencils, and I'm trying to match them as best I can to the photograph. And what I will be doing is maybe coming up with a sample swatch, and we'll kind of go from there. So I'm working with some yellows, some greens, different shades of green for background and things like that. I'm working with a couple of shades of yellow, and also I will be focusing on some burgundy, which I find in the center of the flower. And I'm working with some browns as well, and not necessarily black for the details and the shading part and stuff like that. All right. So again, I'm going to start off with coming up with a sample swatch, that's what I call it. And I'm going to lay down every color that I plan to use. And I want to see how, when I blend it with water, how each one will match up to the different shades and tones and things like that on the photograph. So again, I'm working with earth tones, yellows, there's some burgundy, some red shades sorta, and different shades of green. And also there's that brown that I'm gonna work with. So I'll put these down, and then I'll blend them with water just to see how everything will look when I apply them to the painting itself. So this is a great way for me to get a really good idea of how to place my color when I'm blocking in color, and what colors to use, what shades and things, what colors to, that I'll use for different areas for blocking in. And here we have a good example of how I began working with a particular piece and matching up the colors. And so the light greens are great for the stems and things like that. The darker green will probably be my background. And yeah, so let's get started. If you know me and you know my work, I normally start filling in, when I'm blocking in color, I'm blocking in the negative space first. And I am going to use some greens and browns and things like that to block in the negative space. That's the space around that main image that I'm going to be focusing on. And right now I'm just blocking in, sort of like a crayon, kind of coloring in all of the negative space around that main image that I want to focus on. So I'm using those earth tones of green, different shades of green, light green, dark green, light green mainly for the stems and things like that. The dark green mainly for that background area that I'll be focusing on. Okay. I'll kind of blend a little bit of the yellow. just to kind of add some highlight, because once we blend and those colors start blending together, it really turns out really well. That brightest yellow that I'll be using, or the brightest shade of yellow that I'll be using, will be for the flower itself. Now the flower actually is more white than it is yellow, but because of cast shadows and the objects around it, like the stems and even the sun reflecting on it, it gave me sort of a yellowish tint. It's sort of a yellowish tone to it, and so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna focus on again staying with the negative space, and I'm going in now and kind of adding in some of the detail with the main image, but still focusing on the darkest areas first, and just kind of adding in some of those highlights or light colors that are going to be blended in with this particular piece. I, again, love to work in the negative areas first, and now I'm working with the positive area. And what I found so beautiful about this okra flower is that center, that beautiful purple or mauve type color that's right in the center of this flower. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful. This is a photograph from my garden. And I always like to work from photographs that I take. And this was part of my Art in the Garden series. I did a quick sketch of this particular piece, but here is the full demonstration of how this particular piece comes into being, actually. So I'm working with a couple of tones of sort of yellow, sort of a reddish or purple, not necessarily purple, but more of a mauve color. And I'm adding that to the center. I'm kind of darkening some areas with some browns and things like that. And just kind of going in and adding some of those detailed areas in those shaded areas, just to block in this color. Again, I'm only blocking in color now with the pencil. And that's what's really gonna make everything pop. Is if I blend all of the pencil work really well before I apply the water, it's gonna really be great. So I'm gonna kind of come to a stopping point, just block in a little bit more color, but now I want to really move to starting to blend these colors I blocked in with the watercolor pencils. Now, when I start blending the colors, the way we activate watercolor pencils is just by adding water. You take your brush, and sometimes I use different size brushes. This is a small piece, so a lot of the brushes I'll use will probably be pretty small brushes. But all I want to do now is, like I did at the beginning, I want to now blend the negative space areas first. Those are some of the darkest areas, and it's always advised to maybe start with the darkest areas first and work light, or at least that's how I find it comfortable to work with when I'm doing a piece with watercolor pencils. So I'll start with the darkest areas first, and mainly the negative space areas first, and block those in. And look how beautiful it's already starting to shape up when you blend those colors with when you blend those colors with that water. Look how they begin to pop and stand out. And I mean, it's just absolutely a beautiful and versatile tool, medium to work with. And so when I'm blocking in color, now I'll go to some of the lighter areas here, but I'm going to focus on the darkest areas in those light spaces first, and maybe kind of blend in some of that color too. This is just absolutely fantastic. I love it so far. It's looking great. Now, as I block in color, I want to make sure that you understand this is just the first stage of how I would complete an entire piece. This is mainly to focus on blocking in color and just putting color in place. And the purpose of blocking in color is to sort of get the overall composition, you know, of the piece and get the colors in place and things like that. And so that's where I'm at right now. And this is where I'm blending a little bit of that mauve, that little burgundy color in the middle, kind of bringing that out a little bit, and kind of, you know, this is where we are. And so from this point, I would add more details and things like that, and it'll probably, it would come out just like this. All right. So if you like what I'm doing, please go to my website, purchase some of the prints and things like that I have available. And I will see you again soon at the next Art Today, or maybe painting with watercolor pencil demonstration. All right. Y'all take care.